Welcome back to Gears and Glory, everyone. Today we are doing a Chinese Grand Prix recap, Year of the Snake. The helmets were amazing, but a couple things we're going to hit. We're going to go through our race weekend, and then during the race we'll chat about the cars with damage, crazy radios, overtakes, shout out Ollie Behrman, and then McLaren dynamics. We'll chat a little bit about that. We do have a whole separate episode on the latest news regarding Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda, so go listen to that. I'm sure it'll come up in bits and pieces here, but we're just going to recap the race now and kind of go over. God, it feels so long ago at this point, but
yeah,
it's an important race to recap still. I'm as you can see, if you can see, I guess, not as. I'm wearing my Ferrari shirt. It came in the mail. It's absolutely massive. So word to anybody who's getting an oversized Ferrari shirt. It really is that big. So get your it's oversized. So get your size, if not one smaller. Anyway,
words of wisdom from Sof.
Yeah,
best sprint of the season in China.
Yeah, wow, what a difference between the sprint and the race. We'll talk about that.
Much difference. But I guess we can kick it off with FP1 and sprint quali. First kind of battle that the drivers had to overcome was a completely resurfaced track.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I still think, and that's what I think makes it tricky to judge anyone's performance, and we talked about it on the episode we did for Liam. I think it's tough to judge the drivers' performances on these two tracks so far. I think there are still things that we can get out of it, like, yes, the Red Bull is struggling more. Yes, the McLaren is still really that fast, but in conditions like a wet Australia and a, like, perfectly new resurfaced track, I heard someone describe it as very sticky instead of like oily as they can be when they get resurfaced. I think it's still kind of like a grain of salt. But then, like, I'm going to be saying that for the whole season, and I'm just going to say that until my mental gymnastics get me to a place where Charles Leclerc is the WDC for 2025. So,
amen.
You know, a girl can dream.
It'll happen.
But yeah,
25 is our year, as we've said for the past 3 years.
Yeah, and so if I remember correctly, last year was the first year we were back in China, right?
Yeah.
Since 2019.
Yeah.
Since the pandemic.
Since the vid. That was the first.
Miss Rona. I used to call her that. Yeah. I'm having flashbacks.
Yeah.
But it's the biggest paddock of any of the tracks. And I honestly, and then there's like all the lore of like, it's supposed to look like the character for Upward or something.
Yeah.
So cool. I'm obsessed with turn 1 and 2.
It's incredible. It's so cool. I don't know if you saw. Actually, you probably didn't. Valtteri.
I'm not on social media unless we forget.
Valtteri posted on Instagram. He did like a let's learn about the Shanghai circuit, and he rode his bike around the whole circuit, and he had like one of those 360 cameras on the front, and so it looked like he was like riding on the world.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
He was going through turn 1. He was like, longest turn on the calendar. It's almost 360 degrees. And 4 times he was like, it's still going. It's still going. We're still turning.
I know. Well, last year when we had it, Charles Leclerc forgot to turn off his radio. And it's just, you can just hear the absolute force. And the fact that they lean into the turns, I'm sorry, you're going how many Gs? And you're leaning into that?
Yeah.
The physical capacity is always so beyond me.
Plus, they're like battling into that corner as well because it's so wide. They can. So there's that added onto it as well.
Well, it could be a little wider. We'll talk about the car's damage later, but FP1 and sprint quali looked pretty strong for the Ferraris, which we then see later in the sprint. And then the helmets were beautiful. Like I said, I'm not on social media again. I might cave and download Instagram for the summer because it's summer, but that's the thing that I miss. I think of a lot of stuff is seeing the special helmets. Because I just saw Charles' like the Year of the Snake helmet with the red and white. Oh my god, it was amazing.
That was like, I don't remember the last time Charles did a special helmet that wasn't his same design with just like bits and bobs added in. Because this is a completely different design. He just kept the color scheme, which I don't know the last time he did that. Maybe
I bet
my
the color scheme is a Ferrari thing, because like Lewis's helmet is not the green that he likes; it's yellow.
yeah,
Ferrari
which
yellow.
yeah, which I mean, he actually he raced with a yellow helmet up until 2015
Oh, did
when
he?
his
Did you
first
hear
year
how
in the
Australian I
city.
sounded? That was a very Australian turn of phrase. I'm sorry. Are you proud of me,
Sophie's really
Mom?
trying to nail the Australian accent.
I dream
I
about it.
am proud.
Actually, this is not a joke. I dream about speaking in an Australian accent. Anyway, forgive me. Go
I am
on.
proud of you. Um, but yeah, so up until like 2015, Lewis raced with like a yellow and greenish helmet. But then in 2015, he had to change because him and Nico both had yellow helmets. So they had to change.
And wait, this is 2016. You said
2015, I think.
before they were starting to want to
Yeah,
end it all for each
yeah, yeah,
other.
yeah. Before pre 2016, Brosadies.
Mercedes. Yep.
But yes, I think George also had a special helmet, which was like dragon scale, snake scale vibe, and it was like a deep, chromy silver kind of color.
That's cool.
That was really cool. I think Alex Albon had a special helmet.
Last year he did the Panda, didn't he?
Yeah. I don't know what he did this year. But I think he did something because it's Lily's home circuit. So I think he always does like a little nod to, I think that's why he does a little nod to
that's cute.
a special helmet. But I don't know what he did.
I'm Googling it now, but I'm using a non-Google. Yes, here's Charles Leclerc's. Gorgeous and amazing. Year of the Snake. I don't know what that means.
You don't know what Year of the Snake means?
Well, I mean, obviously it's Year of the Snake in like the Chinese calendar, but like, what does someone who is born in the? It's like if you're an Aries, I know what that is, but like Year of the Snake, I'm less familiar with.
This is Alex's.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. Wait,
it
these
says
series of photos where they've like tossed the helmets up in the air.
Yeah, these ones.
Love it.
They're so cool.
Yeah, love it. Big fan.
Yeah, it is like it's a character that symbolizes changing the masks, and the colors symbolize different things: strength, wisdom, positive character traits, courage, loyalty.
Yeah. I've got it pulled up. It's like the gosh. Oh, I can't find the word. The like dragon
the Chinese dragon
puppet, the big giant puppet, like
that
almost.
Dragon. Oh, we didn't play the Chinese national anthem.
Oh,
one sec.
Are you gonna? Okay, you do it.
Wow, look at this. We're 2 recaps in and we've dropped the ball.
Forgotten.
Oh, I don't know which one it is. There are 4 here.
Oh no.
I'm just gonna play a snippet of the top 2.
Sure.
That is March of the Volunteers. This is National Anthem of the People's Republic. Nice. I like it.
Did you know I know how to sing head, shoulders, knees, and toes in Mandarin?
Wow.
When I was a child, we were taught that. I won't do it now.
Okay. We can do that offline.
Maybe later. Anyways, wow, what a start to the episode.
Yeah.
Let's get back on track.
Yeah.
So
anyway.
Then there's the sprint. Right?
Yes, racing cars.
I took a bunch of notes here, but basically, I wanted to call out 2 things. One thing that I said in our Australia Grand Prix was like when Isaac is out in the formation lap. I was saying so much about how it's like so unique to the day, the track, the situation, your mental environment at that time. And David Coulthard, I just want to say, David Coulthard then said, it's about any given day, how you're feeling. The track is a living thing, as in it's never going to be the same one day to the other, one session to the next.
Yeah.
Everything's always developing and changing, and each experience that you have with it is
Mm-hmm.
unique. And I was like, me and David Coulthard agree on this. Maybe he'll never know, but I'll know. We'll know that me and David Coulthard agree. And I said it first, just saying, DC, I said it first.
Yeah, and
I'm sure he said it before then.
We have the posting receipts to prove it.
Oh my God. No, I'm sure I'm most definitely not the first person to say that. But I'm a big fan of him on the commentators in like the booth with them. Actually, I'm a big fan of the F1. I got F1 TV, so it's Jolyon Palmer typically and Alex Jakes, and I really like them actually. Like they're still British. I'm not missing like Crofty and Brundle that much.
You get with F1 TV, they have Ruth Buscombe.
Yes.
Who
and Laura Winter.
Did you see she's engaged?
I'm not on social media. Oh. Yay! Congratulations, Laura Winter.
She's engaged.
Yeah, well, I remember when Ruth Buscombe got married. She looked amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
Look at that confetti.
I love her. But yeah, I love that F1 TV has more ladies than Sky. However, that might be changing because ESPN may be taking over.
How interesting.
Which will be very interesting.
Very much
so. We'll see. Anyway, back to the sprint.
Yeah, I took a bunch of notes here, but really, I think we can talk about a lot of them because a lot of it's the same sentiment as the race. I was just really excited to see a Ferrari win. It's only, 8 points for the win?
Yep.
But we need it after the race.
Yeah, well, thank God for the sprint. Because otherwise we'd have no points leaving China. So...
Yeah. So...
Thank you.
Yeah. As short-lived as it was so interesting to see people get all this data, and it's so interesting to see who decided to make changes between the sprint and then quali and then the race, right?
Yeah.
Because as far as I understand, Lewis Hamilton decided to make changes to the car. I was like, don't do that. Don't do that.
He just won.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think, and here's the thing, I think as far as I have heard, and I literally wish I could cite my source, but I can't remember where I heard it. It's just part of my brain right now. Was that he wanted more downforce, which when we talk about the disqualifications, we can talk about.
Look what happened.
Plankware, baby. But yeah, I don't know. The sprint was a sprint. I think it was a teaser. It was a teaser for the weekend, but it wasn't because I feel like we're so used to seeing like consistency between like whoever's winning the sprint is going to win the race, at least in team.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think not only with that, but it's kind of consistent between sprint quali, the sprint, qualifying, and then the race. Like
exactly.
There's always very consistent results because it's always the kind of, you can kind of expect that it'll be the same top three from each session, or like at least the same top three teams, and they rotate drivers, i.e. McLaren or Ferrari. But yeah, I don't think we saw that at all this past week in the sprint because it was very different every session.
Well, and that's my perfect segue to get into the race qualifying because I have a note here saying that Isaac in Q1 was P1.
Yeah.
Which was so crazy, which I was so excited. After Australia, I was rooting for him. You know, if you're not rooting for Isaac Hadjar after Australia, even a little bit.
Yeah. You gotta change that, flip it around and start supporting him.
Yeah, well, and then in flipping it around, we see at the very back of the grid after all of qualifying is said and done, this is, and I said this in the other episode that we did specifically about the driver swap between V-Carb and Red Bull, was that Liam Lawson qualified last for the first time in Red Bull's history. And I just wrote, Helmut Marko is going to kill him with his bare hands.
Yeah. But I can't remember. Was it P20 because he had track limits and he had a lap time deleted? And then he couldn't set for that? Or did he just a slow time?
Probably both. I can't remember that specifically. I didn't take note on that. But yeah, it was so interesting to see it just, and we talked about it in the other episode, but it's just so interesting to see like how Red Bull is kind of having to reckon with other drivers now. It's like not just Max. They need to bet on another person, and I don't think that their team and car are set up to do that. So it's my next note for qualifying just is speaking to the fact that like the Racing Bulls were really good.
Yeah, I think that both the Racing Bulls cars are set up to be driven in the driver styles. Like they are open enough that they can adapt and make the car adapt to them.
But it's not fundamental.
The Red Bull is like very tailored to that driving style.
At its core, to Max specifically. Where like it's not like, it's like you've got a body of text and you're changing the font size and color, but at Red Bull, it's like a completely different language.
Yeah.
Like at least at Carb, they've got a similar understanding in the core of it, and it's just top stuff changing, you know?
Yeah.
So
Oscar on pole, maiden pole. Do you know how shocked I was when they said that was his first pole ever?
I was like, there's no way. There has to have been. Yeah, wild.
I actually messaged the chat and I was like, are they wrong?
There's no way.
That's not right.
Yeah, but which is so crazy because you said this is his third season.
Yep.
At McLaren.
And he
was giving Lando a run for his money last season.
This is his third race win, and I think he's won one sprint or two.
Yeah, I know his first one was a sprint win.
Yeah, that was in Baku. But I guess because I think he qualified sprint pole before. That must have been what it was.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Must have been. That. But yeah, maiden pole. Hell yeah, Oscar. Love that for you. Great job.
Yeah, honestly, I was just, again, another driver that after Australia, I was like, please, they need to be cut some slack right now.
Yeah. But yeah, so into the race.
I want to talk about the McLarens really quick at first, since we're talking about the McLarens right now. I just popped it up to the top of the notes. But I thought it was so interesting, right? So we get Oscar starting P1. The start of the race, always fascinating, always insane, always crazy.
He had
the most stressful part. The most stressful.
I was worried.
No, it was and so especially after last season, seeing Lando. I think Lando was on pole because he absolutely fumbled it and dropped to, I believe, 4th. Sometimes I feel like I'm there again, like I'm last year with the amount of detail I remember. I'm like, yes, Max Verstappen finished 5th in Las Vegas, actually.
Mentally, Sof is in 2024.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm not here right now. But turn 1, obviously, in itself, crazy. With everybody there at the same time because you've just started the race, even more so. So I thought it was really interesting that off the bat, Lando seemed to struggle a bit, actually, which maybe it's China now. It's just in his head that last year he kind of messed it up. This year he kind of dropped the ball too a bit.
Yeah, I think he was saying all weekend that he was kind of struggling with putting the car where he wanted it. Because he said that in a few media interviews. But he also said that other people were struggling with the car, and Oscar was also struggling in parts as well. So it was a common issue, but I think Lando was particularly struggling with having the car work how he wanted it to.
Yeah. Well, and then even with all of I think George Russell ended up undercutting him right before he pulled into the pits, I think. I think it's later in the notes, I think. But I want to talk about the dynamic as they were racing. After all was said and done, get back to 1-2 projected finishing. While we're still racing, we've got Oscar in the front and Lando just behind. And they kept saying to Lando, we need you to push. And Lando kept saying, well, first of all, why aren't you pushing for first? Yes, it's your teammate. You want what's best for the team. Your teammate's also, by definition, your biggest rival. Everyone will say that.
Yeah.
They're the one person you want to beat.
Yeah, and I believe McLaren was telling Lando that he had to push because George was gaining on him for majority of the race, constantly.
And it was insane. It was so crazy town to me to hear him say, well, I don't want to push into his dirty air. Like, in my head, I was like, are you just
need to tell him
resigned
to go
second?
faster.
Yeah. He's going fast. If you show up in his rear view, maybe he'll speed up, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, race him then. If you want him to go faster, race him.
Yeah, and what McLaren doesn't want is for Lando to be too far back that when George overtakes him,
there's enough time for him to
George battles him. Then they've got no protection against Oscar, and they'll lose not only the 1-2, but they'll lose the win if George can push and get ahead of Oscar. So that's obviously the reason that McLaren is saying to get closer, so that they build the gap to George. But also, if George does overtake or George does push onto Lando, he can fend him off for Oscar, which Oscar did to Max last year at some point.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know what to make of that. And I believe also in a post-race interview, they asked, maybe it was right in the post-race interview, like Parc Fermé interview, they asked Lando, like, do you think you could have challenged him for the win? And all he said was, well, it doesn't matter now. And I'm like, it does, though. You should. The answer is yes.
Could have.
The answer to that question is yes. Max Verstappen answers that question, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think even Charles Leclerc answers that question, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Like, you're not... I understand if it was Perez. Sure, he would probably say no. Yeah. But it's a known fact that Perez was there to support Max.
He was a second driver. When that's not determined for your team, you need to say yes to that question. Yeah. Or you've deemed yourself the second driver.
Yeah.
But then, it's weird. He'll go back and forth on these things, right? Because last season we had like, oh, well, I'll let him buy at the very last minute. And then we get like Brazil where it's like a weird swap. And then we get like weird Papaya rules team orders. And it's just...
Yeah.
And I think part of it is growing pains for McLaren. Like, I do want to say I respect that they have to make these decisions, because I can sit here and critique it all the time and be hindsight's 2020. They're the ones sitting there being like, how do we tell this guy barreling around a track at 200 kph that he needs to go faster and catch up to his teammate without getting his head?
And we also don't know all the data either. Yeah. Like, we don't know how much... We only know what we see on, like, the broadcast, which isn't a lot. So obviously they see George's times and how Lando's time is affected while he's in Oscar's dirty air, and whether Oscar is losing time, and they can see all of this stuff. So their decisions are a lot more well thought out than what ours are, just from the simplistic information that we know. Yeah. I think it's easy to critique, but I think it'll be interesting to see how the season unfolds, because I want to know at what point, especially if Oscar and Lando are they're equal on points now, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Who they're going to prioritize as the season progresses, because maybe we're going to have another 2021 title battle, but it's going to be teammates.
Another Brosades. Yeah, well, and I mean, it's going to be, I think, at the end of the day, I do think it's growing pains. Like, I think it's like a side effect to growth, right? Like, McLaren has everything, like, every catalyst they need to be big, and they just need to figure out how to use it, and they haven't been big for a long time, So I think that's just tough. But you mentioned dirty air. This is another perfect segue to talk about the cars with damage. I kind of want to talk about Yuki's front wing for a second, because that was like a ghost. Like, yes, I understand it was the dirty air, but like, his radio, when they're like, you have damage, he goes, from what? He's like screaming it. He's like, I don't understand.
Welcome back to me Raikkonen.
He had a perfect drive. Listen, I believe in the Yuki effect. I'll say it once, I'll say it again. But he had a really solid drive for then just... I'm sorry, Carb, who builds your front wings?
Yeah. What happened there? But also, speaking of front wing, Charles.
No, actually, no. Let's not talk about front wings.
Thank you, Lewis, so much. For doing that, because if Charles was keeping up with Lewis with wing damage. I actually think that Ferrari told them to swap positions because Charles was faster.
Well, it was crazy. The radios on that were insane. So
yeah,
it was crazy because Charles Leclerc he's a sassy bitch. Pardon my
he
French. When he's in the
is.
car, he's so
He is.
sassy. And so he's on the radio with Brian and he goes, we have the pace. It's a shame. And I was like, oh, oh, spicy Charles. Whoa. I didn't know they had this level of
He's taken
spice in
Carlos's energy
Monaco.
because that's the energy that Carlos had last year. He's like, fine.
Yeah, I think if anything, Charlos. Okay, ship name. Carlos. What is there? What do people call them? Didn't they
Carlos
have a
and
name?
Charles. I think it is Charles.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
anyways, I think that if Carlos left anything behind, it's that kind of attitude for Charles. And I think also just like the mentality of it being Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
You have to fight. Even if you are the golden boy, you have to fight.
Yeah. I'm really surprised that they didn't change his front wing, actually.
Yeah.
But I think that was Charles' decision, because I think he said not to change it until they were losing time.
Yes. Yeah. It was kind of crazy, too, because all of the commentators were saying, like, I don't know why they haven't changed it. I don't know how they're, like, randomly, like, because they said he's losing 20 to 30 points of downforce. What does that mean? I don't know. What I know it means is that's bad. You want more downforce, right?
Yeah.
But lifting that off of the front left, which was the tire that was degrading the quickest, maybe was giving an edge in terms of tire wear, which probably it wasn't because of underweight disqualification we'll get to.
Yeah, well, I wonder if that has to do with the underweight reasoning, because they didn't release how it was underweight, but it was only underweight by 0.1 gram.
I'm mad. Listen, I understand you have to have rules, but can they wiggle?
Yeah,
Please.
yeah. Well, both of them were underweight by just a fine margin, because Pierre and Charles were the same weight. They were 799.
Yeah.
And Lewis, his skid block, if that's what it's called, I can't remember. His skid block was skid plank was like 0.5 mil or 0.15 mil too short, too thin. So like very, very small errors. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I understand why you have to have the rules. And I think also the big thing that the commentators kept saying too is like, this was a 2-stop race. And then Lance Stroll, listen to me, baked beans. Lance Stroll was the one who figured out it was a 1-stop.
Okay, but they still, yes,
but
he tire whisperer for sure. That was insane performance from him. However, he should have been pitted earlier, because he could have finished earlier if he had more time to move back up the grid. Oh, and we've lost Sof. I just think that Aston could have handled that a little bit better. She's back.
Okay, sorry, I got a phone call. I apologize.
Okay. I asked you a question and then you just disappeared, and I was like, she's gone.
Sorry. Ask again.
I think do you think that Aston should have pitted Lance earlier so that he had more time to work his way back up the grid, despite him being a tire whisperer in China?
Yeah, I mean, if they were, I think the thing with the 1-stop is it works if you do it early.
Yeah.
Because then everybody who's going to pit a second time. Like, V-Carb was like, hey guys, aren't we doing a 2-stop? And everyone was like, no, aren't you looking at the data? Aren't you listening to the radio that everyone can hear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
But it was kind of it was these crazy long stints. Actually, because I have F1 TV, I love F1 TV. F1 TV, I love you.
I wish we had F1 TV.
Yeah, I wish. But Julian Palmer does a recap and he shows the data. He was showing the data of like Lando's brakes, which was crazy. We'll get to that when we go through the rest of the damage. But they show like the tire dag and the like time lost with ongoing time after pit stops and stuff. And it was crazy how some of Pierre Gasly stopped first and then he just went the rest of the race on those tires. Like mentally,
See, I think that's why him and Charles were underweight, because I think it was their
Absolutely
tires. That is kind of the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah, because they actually, I saw the report, they weighed his Ferrari with a new nose cone on. So,
Yeah,
like, he was going to be penalized for the damage.
I think they weighed it with the piece that had broken off, and it was underweight. And then they were like, oh, well, there's parts missing, so, like, we'll just weigh with the new front wing that you would have put on anyway.
Yeah.
And then it was still underweight by, like, 1 gram. And it makes sense if that one tire, like the front left where the front wing had damage, was taking a lot more, like, brunt.
Yeah, the one thing that I did see on, I don't even know what, it might have been LinkedIn, because that's the social media that I'm on now, is that Max was dipping into the mud.
Yeah, I think I sent that to you guys as well.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I just get recycled social media on text messages and WhatsApp messages. That, like, that's why everybody swerves around and picks up all the marbles, because they can't be underweight or they'll get disqualified.
Yeah.
It's George last season all over again.
Yeah. But yeah, do you want to? Oh my god, Fernando DNF.
Yeah, my fantasy team's not doing well. I'll say that.
Double DNF.
But that was crazy too, because that's when we see, it was the beginning of the race, all this stuff is going on, and we get two basically back-to-back radio messages of Max, you know, keeping an eye out for his bestie, who he is then going to murder in the race, right? Because Max ends up passing Charles. But he's like, Charles has front wing damage to GP, and I'm sure GP's like, okay, what do you want me to do with that? But, like, I'm sure the Ferrari pit wall was like, oh, thank you, Max Verstappen, ?
Yeah, he probably said that because he knew what Ferrari are like.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm just going to give them a heads up, because they probably won't see this until Charles says something.
Yeah, well, I mean, whatever. But then we also get the same thing.
Crumbs.
I know. We get the same thing from Pierre, I believe it was, like, Alonso's brakes are on fire. They're, like, just reporting, like, it's, well, okay, because George Russell gets a lot of heat for being a Karen on the track and say, oh, what was it? North jump start, right?
Yes.
But listen, he's just keeping an eye out. Like, this was George type behavior.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is drivers' association, you know, behavior.
Yeah. So I thought it was kind of cute that they were, like, looking out for each other, and even the commentators too. It's so gratifying when I think something and then, like, Jolyon Palmer says it, and I'm like, yes, exactly that.
Yep.
Very gratifying.
Or you're like, yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah. Put me on. Like, put me on F1 TV. Yeah, and then combined radios, and we talked about it a little bit, the radio that Yuki, when his front wing just, like keels over.
Literally just broke.
He just he was so mad. We know Yuki gets mad. This is toned down Yuki anger. And he goes, from what?
Literally, he sounded like that one radio message of Kimi Räikkönen. And when they tell him that he has a 5-second penalty, and he says, for what?
And then they just tell him he has a 5-second penalty again, and he goes,
oh, what?
For what?
It was almost identical.
Yes.
Also,
100%.
Speaking of Kimi Antonelli actually sounds like Kimi on the radio, like Kimi Räikkönen on the radio.
Oh, really? I haven't heard so many of his radios.
I noticed it when, and we'll get to this point in a little bit, but when Toto told Kimi that he was driver of the day, Kimi sounded like Kimi.
Yeah, we'll talk about driver of the day.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we were talking about the radio, the damaged radio. Another Yuki radio from China that was very funny was, he says, I want to use more front. And then his engineer goes, we don't want to use more front because everyone's battling the front tire day. And he just goes, well, I want to. And I think they just said, like, okay, or just, like, didn't respond. Because at the end of the day, what are you going to... You can tell your driver to do so much, but at the end of the day, they're the ones out on the track.
Yeah.
And like I said, Yuki drove a hell of a race if it wasn't for just, like, his front wing keeling over.
Random. Yeah.
And I get it was, like, the dirty air. But, like, shouldn't the cars be set up to survive dirty air?
Yeah, I don't know. That's like a
all passing
issue on V-Carb's part.
Yeah. Interesting. He won't have to worry about that. He will have to worry about the entirety of the Red Bull car. But yeah, a couple of other radios that I noted were Alex Albon, sweet angel halo Alex Albon going.
Who was the first Williams to lead a race?
Yes, huge.
In like however many years. Insane.
He did have
Love
a moment.
that.
But and it was kind of gratifying probably because he's like being told all this advice from his engineer, and he I don't remember what it was. I didn't write everything down, but he at one point goes, "I'm better than everyone else," and I'm like, "Whoa!" Like I know they all have that mentality when they're in the car. They have to. That's what the sport is.
But it's surprising when you see it from drivers like Alex.
Yeah, like I wouldn't be shocked if it came from like Lewis or Alonso or Max or
even Charles.
Yeah, or George even. Because George has had his sass moments, but like, I don't know. There was a very interesting dynamic between the drivers and their engineers this race of wanting to do things in the car and engineering saying like, no. Yeah. Please don't.
I agree. And then I think this leads us right into our next sassy radio message of Ferrari swapping positions.
Yes. The broadcast did not tell the whole story. So all we hear in the broadcast was crazy. So all we hear in the broadcast is crazy, right? Because all we hear is them saying, okay, well, please switch positions when you're ready. Yes. And already we know Ricky and Lewis are having communication problems. Like maybe they need to go to couples therapy. But Lewis is cutting Ricky off then and saying like, I'll tell you when I'm ready. Like, I'll tell you when it's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And
very Lando
already, like, Charles has been sassy saying, like, oh, it's a shame. Like, we have the pace. And then, again, it happens again, like, with Lewis and Ricky. But what we don't hear is before all of this, like, bickering between Lewis and Ricky is it was Lewis's idea to swap positions.
Oh.
Yeah. Hello, that's the whole story, F1 broadcast.
Look at them trying to make drama. I'm not gonna lie, when I saw the radio message that said swap positions, I actually thought that Lewis was behind Charles, and I was like,
no, and I hate team orders. Yes, just let him race.
I hate it as well, because like just let him race.
Yeah.
Especially because it's Lewis. Like Lewis and Charles, they are two of the most respectful racers when it comes to their teammates now.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah. But like we've seen how Charles battles Carlos when they were teammates. We see how Charles battles Max. Which we can talk about a little bit later. But like Lewis is respectful of his teammate as well. Like they will fight for that position.
The worst was the end plate of a front wing because Lewis came out of pretty much nowhere in like a blind spot for Charles.
Yeah.
Like, and even then, just no one went off the track, no punctures, the end plate.
And it wasn't even like a battle at that point either. It was just like Lewis turned in.
They were on different racing lines.
Expected.
That's all that happened.
Charles wasn't turning in yet. That was it.
Yeah. I don't know. Kind of crazy. But yeah, I think that was most of the radio communications that I saw that were noteworthy. I'm sure there were more, but yeah, I don't have a good segue for this next
actually, the good one that I really liked was when Brian was on the radio to Charles and he was like, oh, this and this is happening. We suggest that you like ease up on the braking or you like manage your tires a bit better or something like that or stop pushing, whatever. It was some recommendation. Brian was like, we recommend you do this. And Charles just responded, nope.
Yes. It was so good. He gets so sassy when he's in the car. It's amazing.
Cool. Nice.
Wait, and I would be remiss not to mention Oscar having a little shout, but not on the radio, just like saying that he had a little shout from his win.
Yeah.
I was so cute. I'm like, I just had a little yell in my helmet to spare your ears or something. I was like, that is so thoughtful.
My Shayla.
Oh my God. Yeah. And also I would be remiss not to mention Lando's brakes when we talked about damage.
Yeah.
Because that was that's actually really scary. Because you're going I was kind of shocked it wasn't more than just him managing it. But you can see in the data on the F1 recap of it that they'll show how much throttle, how much brake. By the end of it, Lando was just like lifting in the corners, just like lifting way early and letting like gravity do its thing.
Because I
And
think it was what, like
around.
3 or 4 laps left, and Lando was like, I have like
no
brakes.
brakes.
Actually, he kept saying his brakes were long, and I was like, I don't know what this means, and I had to Google it, and I was like,
oh, well, that the braking thing is like very, yeah,
where
come
it's
on.
usually like, I know it now, and when I read it, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense because the brake is so like hard that it makes sense when you have to push longer to brake.
Especially when you're so used to like a certain amount of responsiveness from that specific. Yeah. That's like if you're in a vehicle, that's the one thing you need is a brake.
Yeah.
And so to not have, like, I don't know.
When you're driving, you know how hard to press your brake pedal to get, to come to a stop. And so Lando had to like double that because they just like weren't working.
And it kept getting worse. And that was the scary part. It wasn't like, it like got long and like caught itself. Like it was just deteriorating at each lap.
Because I was thinking, like, how is he going to stop in the pits? How is he going to pull up to the 2 little board?
Ooh,
He's
I didn't even think about that.
He's going to plow through the whole pit lane, Esteban Ocon style.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple double backs there, but the race was also chock full of overtakes in the midfield, also at the front. Some of them were undercuts, some of them were straight up and down passes. But I think there were a couple that stood out to me, which were Ocon overtaking Kimi Antonelli in the grass. Like he just didn't care. I was like, you're running out of road, brother. And he just went in the grass. And it was this whole cloud of like dust and dirt. And he just makes the pass. And I'm like, I mean, okay, it worked. But if that grass is that much more slippery, you're gone.
I just
high risk, high reward, I guess.
Silly boy.
I thought you weren't supposed to go in the grass.
But like the road is there for a reason. You know?
No, I'm kind of shocked he didn't get I guess because the track limits are if all 4 wheels are off at any given time. So you'd have to really be in the grass for that. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was ballsy.
Didn't push him wide either. Like Kimi didn't push him off the track.
Yeah. No, it was, I don't know. It was a very interesting pass. I guess, it stuck. But I don't know. It feels like there's not like craftsmanship to it. I think it was a very risky, and I think that in that regard, like it's a cool pass in that like he sent it, right?
Yeah,
but there's not like we can talk about Max overtaking Charles. Like he's just clever. He's just that quick that once Charles makes his decision, he is actually in the better position behind.
Yeah,
which is a crazy thing to say in Formula One.
Yeah.
But like now he knows where Charles is going. He can then step on the throttle and then kick it around the outside.
Yeah. Again, Verstappen crumbs. I love watching their battles on track because you just know that they're going to push each other, but they're going to be good with each other. Like you know that they're not going to crash. That's honest. The best thing. You're like, oh, this is quality racing, and I think that's the good thing about but that's one thing that we'll see more this year, if considering the Red Bull car is not up to standard. Yeah. Is Max is going to be battling a lot more, maybe in that 3rd to 4th and up, position. And that's usually where Charles sits most of the time. So maybe we're going to see a lot more of this Verstappen stuff.
I think it's kind of crazy too to consider like Max Verstappen has been called a terrorist because of his driving style. Like he is aggressive and he is sending it at whoever. But when it comes to people who will, I don't know what the difference is when he'll decide like, this is the time to pass someone politely. Yeah. Versus, I'm going to kill you. And one of us will end up in front. Yeah.
I think he's actually said in the interview before that his favorite person to like battle is Charles.
Oh my god. Kelly who? No, I'm just kidding.
Kelly and Alex who?
No, seriously. Alex is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. They make sense to me as a couple. I completely get it.
All her outfits in the Chinese paddock were absolutely insane. They were so gorgeous. They were so beautiful. If you haven't seen them, Soph, I will send them to you.
Please. Yes. Yeah. Two very beautiful people. If they have biological children, it's going to be a perfect child.
Can we talk about how rich sounding Leo's last name is? Leclerc Saint Malo.
Yeah.
Leo Leclerc Saint Malo.
That's a person name. He has a person. Like, you could have named a baby that, and I'd be like, sure, that's a baby name.
Rich.
Yeah. That dog has better life than us.
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh my gosh. But in the rest of the overtake, I think we need to talk about Ollie Behrman. Ollie Behrman absolutely smashed it out of the park with all of his overtakes. He was very funny radio when he passes. Who is it that he passed?
I think he passed Jack.
He passed Liam and he goes, "Ciao."
Oh yeah. No, I think it was Liam. And he passed him, but then it was really funny because Liam turned into the pits after he passed him. And he was like, "Ciao," and Liam was like, "Yum." I was like,
yeah. Oh. I guess I'll just leave. No, so funny. But it was good. It was good battles. It was good. Like, I think it was good learnings too, because there was one I forgot Jack Doohan's name over the weekend. I could only think of Mick.
Mick?
His father.
Schumacher? Oh, Mick Doohan.
Yeah. I could only think of Mick, and I was like, no, Mick is not right. Mick is the wrong generation. Jack Doohan.
Jack.
And even saying it now, I'm like, is that right?
I can confirm.
Okay, good. Okay. But he had a big lockup, and I believe it was he pushed Isaac Hadjar off the track, and he got a penalty for it and everything.
Yeah.
But I think that is such a key learning for them as rookies, is to understand what level of braking, what kind of sends you can do it, and what types of corners.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, 10-second penalty. So sorry for the Alpine team.
Yeah.
It's actually, I think, a good thing. I think it's a good thing.
Rough.
Well, yeah. There's a couple turns in there that'll get you.
Yeah. Ollie also had a lockup and he overtook Lance. But he saved that as well. Like, it wasn't as big of a lockup as what Jack did. You know, he wasn't going to crash Lance. And I think props to Lance for not crashing into Ollie as well for that. Because he kind of just, like, was right there.
Yeah,
and, like,
and Lance also, to give Lance his flowers, he overtook Carlos.
Yeah.
So Lance was part of the conversation for all you Lance haters.
Genuinely think, because Lance has been in the sport for like years now.
He's actually really a seasoned driver.
He is. Like, he's been in there longer than like Charles, I think.
Really?
I think so. Because he was at Racing Point.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say? I feel like Adrian Newey maybe like had a talking to and was like, I'm giving you guys a car, like, you need to perform.
Yeah.
I reckon.
I hope so.
But they could have also just invested into the development a bit more of the drivers and things like that. I mean, we've seen it with Alex. We were talking about it last week. You know, it seems that his driving has definitely improved over the summer break. So, you know, maybe they've all just done a lot more training. Yeah,
and I think also just the fact that these cars have been in development and we're still in the same series of rules has just given people time to catch up as well. And we're just seeing the final, like, this is the last year we'll have these regulations. We're seeing the final products that anybody could scramble together with at the last minute, which is a whole season, right? But, like, before all hell breaks loose in 2026.
I'm so interested to see how.
Gosh, I know. I'm living 2024 and 2026 right now. Forget 2025. Oh, man.
25 doesn't exist. So that kind of brings us to the end of the race. McLaren 1-2. Oscar. Win for Oscar.
Yeah. What effects can I get my phone camera to do? We'll get some, what are these called?
Fireworks?
Ooh. Fireworks and lasers. Love it. Oscar. For Oscar. Huge. Love it. I absolutely deserved. He earned every bit of that. And this is actually one where, yes, Oscar gets the big prize. He wins the race. Huge. I think it was nice also that on the podium, Lando did spray him. He wasn't throwing a fit. I understand why he didn't do the champagne pop, because he didn't win. I get it.
Yeah.
Like, I completely understand.
Yes.
Lando, your attitude on the podium, like, thumbs up for me.
Yeah.
I'm with you on this one.
Lando has said before he only does the champagne pop if he feels like he performed, and like that's only his internal like ranking of how
interesting.
He performed.
We'll have to keep that in mind next time he does it, and like see what factors make that up.
Yeah. But I mean, he said that he struggled with the car all weekend, and then obviously there were brake issues as well, so he couldn't really do much with that. And yeah, so I don't imagine it would have been his favorite drive, but I am glad. I did get a little bit worried when he first opened the champagne, because he kind of walked past Oscar a little bit, and I was like, oh, don't you dare. And then he sprayed him, and I was like,
yeah, no, I think it was good. I'm very excited for
that podium scene. Actually haunts me. I don't think you guys realize how traumatized I am by that.
Oh, we realize. It keeps coming up. You're clearly traumatized. I think when you close your eyes, it's on the back of your eyelids. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Do you know how many edits I have saved? Like sad edits where it's like, you know that song where it's like, it's just, you're just thinking it's a small thing that happened, but the world ended when it happened to me. And it's like, Lando, you're just thinking a small thing that happened, and then he like walks past Oscar. And it's like,
listen, and that's why I love this sport. We don't know, but that's real to us. Skyfall Adele, that's real to me. The Skyfall Adele edits, those are real to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, aside from the McLaren 1-2, George P3 again.
Yay. George is having a moment. If McLaren managed to fumble the bag, I feel like it's gonna be Charles Leclerc. I think it's gonna be George.
Yeah.
Right now, at least, it's looking like.
Like, I know that historically, George is known as the person that like is always just there, ready to take it if someone fumbles.
Yes,
which is great. You know, obviously
it's a good place to be.
In a good position. Yeah. But I think he's actually earned these P3s the past 2 races, because he's qualified very high. He has driven a great race in wet conditions.
Yeah. And the strategy has come together for it too. His undercut was huge. Was he ever going to be able to keep Lando with functioning brakes behind him? Probably not.
No.
But like, he fought for the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, give George his flowers, because his performance so far has been great, and a George domination might bore fans.
Maybe we won't see. It's so crazy that and I love it, this sport is so weekend to weekend. There's always something happening. Our Australia conversation was so different to the one that we're having now, to the one that we'll have after Japan.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited for Japan.
It's going to be beautiful. I just drove it on the PlayStation game, and I was like, I get why they like this track. I
can't wait. It's literally my wallpaper is Oscar in Japan.
Oh my god. I love that.
And I have
They're going to go crazy with the cherry blossom pictures.
And then it's Charles on my watch.
Oh my god, cute.
My shoulders. Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. So Ferrari 5-6, which was very short lived. Wait,
let's talk about
Max.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Ferrari DSQ.
I was torn between wearing my new Ferrari shirt that I have on now or my Sad Charles shirt. It was tough, because the Sad Charles shirt was really going to hit today, but I do think I wore it very recently. I have more shirts than that. I promise.
Yeah, I had that dilemma in the last episode we filmed. I was like, I've worn this jumper
I can't be. Times. Lizzie McGuire traumatized me for being an outfit repeater. I don't know if you guys had Lizzie McGuire.
Yeah.
Yeah, traumatized.
Did you say you don't know if we had Lizzie McGuire?
Listen, I don't know. I feel like it's such an American thing.
Bless. No, we did have Lizzie McGuire.
Okay.
It was good.
She was still American.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, that's a silly question.
No, that's fine. I ask you silly questions about America all the time.
Oh my god.
Anyway, double Haas points. Okay.
Yeah. As much as it helped my fantasy team, it also went down the gutter because of the disqualification. So we talked about it a little bit already, right? Everybody thought it was going to be a 2-stop. It was a 1-stop. People were underweight. It was both Charles and Pierre that got disqualified for being underweight. Lewis for plank wear. I have in all caps here, why? And then the last note in this section says, "Put me out of my misery."
Oh.
Yeah, that one hurt. Double
that one,
DQ? That was tough.
Yeah, that was rough. I think that was, I mean, that was the last thing I saw before I went to bed.
Oh. Ouch. Yeah.
And I was like,
that's a tough one.
Oh, because I have the Box app, and so I get notifications when like breaking news drops, because I don't have notifications on for any social media, so I only see news when I check it. And I think I'd gotten out of the shower and I looked, and it was like Ferrari double DSQ, and I was like, what?
Yeah, that's when you decide you're done being awake and conscious for the day. I need a break.
No, I genuinely was like, is this the end of my Ferrari love? I can't deal with this anymore.
I saw someone say like that the Ferrari clown pit wall meme has like not been rotating lately, but I saw it the other day, and I'm not even on social media. So
yeah, I think it's making the rounds again. I actually saw this person post. They were playing the F1 game.
Yeah.
They pulled into the pits, and Ferrari wasn't there. They were in the garage, and they were just sitting in the pits waiting for the pit crew to come out. And the caption was like, "Yep," and the caption was like, "Biblically accurate Ferrari pit stop." And I was like, "Oh,
ouch." Don't say that in front of him. In front of
sorry. Not in front of the horse.
I
Not
know.
The stallion. Not our Italian stallion. So driver of the day. Let's move on to here.
Yeah.
Why did Kimi get driver of the day? I'm not saying he didn't deserve it. He definitely deserved it in Australia.
Did other people deserve it more?
Yeah.
Yes. Because here's
Charles.
the thing. I've said sometimes I don't agree with the driver. Well, sometimes I don't agree with the driver of the day. Okay, sure, whatever. Like, of course. But, like, I get it. Like, I'll understand why some people get it. Like,
yeah.
I love Oscar. I don't think he should have gotten it, because he turned a P1 in quali to a P1 in the race.
Yeah,
did he fight for it? Did he drive really well? Yes. But did he also have it set up for that to happen? Absolutely.
Yeah.
People that I think should have been driver of the day: Charles Leclerc, Ollie Behrman, Lance.
Alex Albon.
Yeah.
Lance? Isaac Hadjar.
Yeah. And I think I heard somewhere, probably one of the podcasts that other podcasts I listened to, was saying, like, I think it was supposed to be a makeup for his drive in Australia, but that's not how it works.
That's not how it works. I'm sorry. But I don't know if you heard his radio message, but yeah, Toto went on and said, "Kimi, your driver of the day," and he was like, "Me? What for?" And Toto was like, Toto literally said, "Yeah, interesting, right?" And Kimi was like, "Yeah, why?" And then Toto said, "I think it has something to do with your young fan base." And I think he said something about being attractive.
Oh my God. Isn't it your sister that loves him?
Yes.
Yeah.
She also loves Ollie. So she was very sad when Ollie didn't get driver of the day.
Yeah.
But she was very happy that Kim got it.
I think for the first time driving a track, the second time driving a race in that car, I think Ollie should have gotten it. That's my driver of the day.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think mine, is either Ollie or Charles, because Charles drove really well with damage.
The whole race, lap 1 it happened.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. But that is, I mean, that's China.
Yeah. What a weekend. Yeah. Once again, catch our other episode for all of the Liam Lawson, Yuki Tsunoda swap thoughts. But what a race. We'll be looking forward to debrief Japan. I think next week we'll do our predictions so that we have them fresh in mind for the race.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea.
I'm going to go wipe my tears with my Ferrari shirt. If you see this white strip turn black, it's my mascara.
thoughts and prayers for all the Ferrari fans out there.
Yeah,
today.
Maybe they can take a chance, wash their face, get the clown makeup off, and try again next race.
Yeah, I made a meme after OzGP of like the sad little hamster with a McLaren hat that said with the music where it's like
the little the world's tiniest violin type music. Yeah.
And I said every Australian right now, and I should have made a follow-up meme from that last weekend with a Ferrari hat.
Yeah.
Saying every Ferrari fan right now.
Sure was. Can confirm. Yeah. Yep. So
maybe I'll just do that after every race. Whoever like has a bad race, I'll just post a sad hamster.
Yeah, consolation sad hamster. You don't get like any points, but look at this tiny violin music. All right. Well, we'll catch you for the next one. And for now, bye.